Hi, I'm Wild Bill. I'm overweight and undersleep. I woke up way early this morning. I don't know why. Couldn't go back to sleep, so I got up and started writing. Um, that didn't do my hands any good. Today I want to talk about a very important issue. I've tried this 4 times now, and every time I went off on a rant, and I'd rather not rant to my friends and fans, or to people that are looking honestly for a spin or for a take on today's situation. I'm going to talk about the war in Ukraine today for the very first time. And I'm going to talk about it in such a way as I have not heard anyone discuss it yet. We are profiting vastly, by we I mean the NATO nations, selling Ukraine cast-off equipment and at first world prices. And Ukraine is hemorrhaging money and will probably die, but Russia doesn't really see it dying fast enough. So Russia is going to have to step up the pace of the war somehow. How could it do that? What weapons does Russia have that it has not yet employed effectively in this campaign against the Hitlerists in Ukraine? Wow. Russia has the world's second largest non-nuclear submarine fleet. That's right. They call them diesel-electric boats, or AIP boats, for air-independent propulsion. And these submarines, the most modern of them, are quieter than the United States nuclear submarines. Quieter. They don't stay on station as long, they're not as fast, but they're quieter. And in the Black Sea, where there's a lot going on right now, quiet is a winner. Because there's so much shipping traffic that it would be very difficult for us to detect one of those ultra-quiet diesel submarines. All that surface traffic going by, right? And then we have our subs in the Black Sea, keeping tabs, we hope, on the Russian subs. But the Black Sea isn't all that good for nuclear-propelled submarines that are, hundreds of feet long, 600 feet long. They're big. The little diesel-electric boats, they have a tendency to be much smaller and very effective in small, close waters like the Black Sea, whereas our big submarines are much more effective in the open ocean. There's a lot of room to maneuver, a lot of depth to dive down into. Be quiet. How good are these diesel-electric submarines? Well, maybe 10 years ago, was it? We were running an exercise with an American carrier task force and multinational unit. And the Swedes snuck a submarine right through our cordon and ran a mock attack on a United States carrier. Sank it in terms of the war game that was being played. I don't think of Sweden as one of the world's large maritime powers. Do you? No? Yeah. And the idea of the Swedes taking one of their tiny little submarines and just going right through our cordon of modern destroyers, towed sonar arrays, all this wonderful detected. We have magnetic anomaly detectors flying overhead and stuck in the tails of big patrol aircraft. We have satellites overhead that are measuring the change in the ocean height by radar. Because when a submarine goes through a piece of ocean, water's non-compressible. It has to bulge around the submarine. And you can see that. It's like a nod of slightly higher water that's moving across the ocean from orbit. Wow. So we had all this, and the Swedes slipped right in and ran a mock torpedo attack, sank a Nimitz-class carrier. That's our top tech. The Swedes. Not Russia, not China, not North Korea. North Korea is well known in the world for having the most yelling newscasters ever. Go watch a North Korean news broadcast. They all sound like there's somebody with a hand up their butt twisting at the handle. And of course, that's the way. I have a friend who studied Korean fighting system, Tang Soo Do, but Taekwondo, and he said, that's how Korean sounds. That was he's taking instruction from a fighting systems instructor, and they kind of do that. But still, that was interesting to have him say that, and then to hear North Korean DPRK, is it, newscasters, because I listen to them on YouTube. I don't even know what they're saying. I just listen to see what the face of rhetoric looks like. That's it's like you want that person to be your soccer mom. You know, that's how they do it. So, we want the person to be our college professor. They want the person to be their soccer mom. I'm ready to push you right off the edge, kid. So, my question today is, what are we going to do when Rossian starts sinking those transports? It's an act of war. Well, yeah, invading the sovereign nation of Ukrayna is an act of war. We're only arguing over the price. So we're not stopping Rossian from doing that. We're not stopping Rossian from destroying the tanks and the armored vehicles and the planes and the drones that we send to Ukraine. Apparently that's not a crime to destroy our stuff, right? Because we sold it to them downstairs. Rossian can destroy as much of it as it likes. Right? But what happens if Rossian starts saying, well, Ukraine has already bought the stuff that's on those ships. Let's just sink the ships. And then we'll pay a fine for each ship that we sink, right? Later on, after we win, after we strip Ukraine bare and we made some money off it, and we'll start paying off those fines. We'll put money in banks, and we'll take the interest from that money in the banks. We'll take half that interest, and we'll start paying off the fines for that. The other half of the interest goes to my pocket. That's the way those things work, I think, isn't it? Anybody know better? So, what I think is going to happen soon, or what might very well happen soon, I'm not God. I don't have that kind of eyes. My eyes are weak. But my mind is strong, and I'd like to think that we have considered this concept, that Rossian has a large diesel-electric submarine fleet perfectly capable of sinking every single damn ship in the Black Sea at any given moment. Plenty of high-quality wake-homing torpedoes. Plenty of high-quality infrared homing torpedoes. The kind of torpedoes for which we don't really have effective countermeasures. So if they work, we're in trouble until we come up with effective countermeasures. Now, we have countermeasures for acoustic homing torpedoes. We have countermeasures for sonar homing torpedoes. Very good ones, advanced ones, probably the best in the world. But we don't have effective countermeasures for wake homing torpedoes, which is a Russian standard. And nobody in the world can stop a Shkval, which is an old tech torpedo, old tech in today's standards, but it is capable of going 200 miles per hour underwater. Can't steer because it travels inside a bubble of steam. It's a really interesting concept. A boundary layer. Boundary layer mechanics, the physics. The bubble of steam it's in just skips through the water like immensely fast, and the torpedo or submarine that's inside it is protected from all the friction that you would have from the water. However, it's a bumpy ride. People couldn't ride on something like that. They'd die. They'd be shaken to bits. However, a nuclear warhead could. So Rossian has a lot of Shkval torpedoes that they never shot, but they're supposed to be very fast, straight line, 200-mile-an-hour torpedoes. So if you're 200 miles from an enemy ship, well, you're just within range of his cruise missiles. He's just within range of your torpedoes, and you have a better chance of shooting down his cruise missiles. Slava, we hardly knew you. Moskva, we hardly knew you. It's a Slava-class cruiser. Than we have of stopping the Shkval torpedo. So that's an interesting thought. The Rossians have 200 diesel-electric subs. They all fire full-size torpedoes. The Rossian full-size torpedoes are pretty good. I don't know if they're any Mark 48 ADCAP, but they're probably still pretty good. So we have this very, very, very attractive idea for the Russians. If they think, I wonder if we can get away with sinking a couple ships, because then they'll stop bringing them in until they figure out how to deal with this. And Ukraine will die. So I want to send a message out to military analysts everywhere. If you haven't thought of this, what's Russia's submarine fleet doing right now? Perhaps you should. This is Wild Bill for RedBeard Pirate Radio. Not even wearing the Moondog merch today because this is a touchy subject. And if I fail at it, I don't want the Moondog to be painted with my failure. He's a good guy. He wouldn't deserve that. This is Wild Bill, 8th of February.